Hi, and welcome to ArcDream Presents. I'm Rachel Ivey with ArcDream Publishing, and with me today are Shane Ivey and Dennis Detwiller. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, everybody. First of all, I want to just jump ahead and announce with great pride. Our main announcement here is the Living Steel edition of Delta Green, where we're rewriting the rules from scratch
With wire binding.
with wire.
That is state-of-the-art spiral bounding.
Yes, and state-of-the-art 1987 rules and rules for bullet size and trajectory and
You're ready to catch some hell on the internet
and a D1000 hit location system.
You're totally going to get a lot of emails saying, "I love Living Steel."
Oh, I know. Now Jesper Anderson will be the first to come on, because he and I have gamed together a lot, and we're fellow Living Steel fans. But
just send your complaints.
More than I like it.
Send your complaints to wedon'tcare@gmail.com. So go in the special round folder, that we have, the spam folder.
That's probably a really busy email address.
That's probably, yeah. If you have that email address, I'm sorry.
It's like the 8675309 phone number.
Exactly. All right, so today we wanted to it's the beginning of the new year. It's the beginning of a new decade, depending upon who you talk to. We wanted to kind of take a look ahead at 2020 and kind of see what projects that we have in the pipeline and what their status is. So looking at our handy-dandy topic, I can see the first thing that we've got in the chute is the Labyrinth in hardback and retail. What can you guys tell me about it?
It's at the printer now, and the most recent thing I have from them from yesterday, I think, was their FedExing F&G proofs, folded and gathered proofs, to me and Dennis, so we can look at what the paper stock is like, what the cover stock is like, how everything is put together and printed before they do the full print run. Nice. And then once that happens, then assuming we don't find anything objectionable, then we'll send it back to them with approvals, and they'll proceed. And we should have it in the warehouses, pardon me, in March or April.
One of the big things to talk about on this is this is a shift from Chinese printing for us. So this printing will take place in North America. It means the shipping of the product will be a lot faster than standard, right, Shane?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
Yeah, usually we have to kind of wait for stuff to move across the Pacific Ocean. And this would just be driven by freight across North America, which will make this a lot quicker in the turnaround.
It's very exciting to see the little boat come across, though.
Yeah. That's
so are
true.
we going to get that? We're not going to get that with the.
No, it'll be more like.
We will have a small batch freighted over to the UK.
You can try
for international deliveries.
Okay, so we can
we'll have some
live vicariously through that, so that the poor UK people don't have to have their stuff shipped directly from the US.
Right.
At what, 150 to 200% cost for shipping, something like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's easy.
All right, so definitely we will have that sometime in the next quarter, right? Quarter to 2 quarters.
We will definitely maybe have that sometime in the first half of this year.
Shane is so confident.
You heard it here first, folks. Okay. All right. So next up on our list is Hourglass, that we have been putting in all of our newsletters as coming soon. Is it coming soon?
Like everything Delta Green, it's coming soon.
I did my part.
It's that is in Simeon's hands, and Simeon has a pile of things in his hands now for that they're working on for us. So as soon as Wrestle-nomicon is out of Simeon's hands, the last bits and pieces that are being designed for that, and it goes to press, then that's next on Simeon's to-do list.
For layout design, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all the writing and rewriting and playtesting, editing and art, everything is done for that. So it just needs to be laid out, which that's something that Simeon's done lots of these, so that won't take a very long time.
So like all of our stuff, basically, when he's finished with it and we signed off on it, it's going to be PDF to everybody, and then
Yeah. I mean, the way the process works is I have the PDF finalized, and then upload the layout files, text and cover layout files to DriveThruRPG, and then it takes a couple of weeks to get samples back from them, and then eventually it goes live once I've had a chance to approve it. So that's where that usually adds. It means that once I have the final layout from Simeon, it's probably another 2 weeks to a month before the thing is available to the public.
Okay.
Because there might be issues.
There might be issues. We got Jack Frost on there. That's an old one. That's what have you done differently to Jack Frost before it's coming out?
That was one. That was mine from the end of 1999. So if I'd had my shit together, then I would have had this done about 6 months ago and been able to publish it for the end of 2019 for the 20th anniversary. But it's not that big of a deal of a scenario, so it wasn't worth all the trouble and heartache it would have taken to shuffle things around. But I rearranged it from the ground up. I rewrote tons of it from the ground up, and found a lot of ways to improve it as a scenario and make it a little more sensible and hopefully a little creepier in some parts.
Awesome.
So it's still got a little bit of work to be put into it before it goes over to layout. And I think Dennis, I don't remember. Did you do all the art for that?
It's all done.
Okay, so we'll get I'll have a couple of maps done for that, but that won't take very long either. So that one too is imminent.
All right,
cool.
Very good. Iconoclasts. That one's probably a little further off, isn't that Mr. Glancy's baby?
Yeah. So our plan right now is for Scott to send us the manuscript as far as it's gotten this week, so we can kind of review it and see what needs to happen with it. Iconoclast is a challenge because that scenario is closer to real world controversies and current events than most things that we do for Delta Green. So even though it's a period piece set in 2016, like the context of talking about your agents interacting with their own Quds force suddenly takes on a weird new relevance as of a week ago.
Changes all the time.
Yeah.
Gets up.
We did it before it was cool.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Arcant? Is that what?
Yep.
Okay.
Talk about that, Jonas.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that one.
ARCHINT will be an assembly of books, rituals, items found in Delta Green scenarios, and about 3/4 of the book will be new items, new rituals, new books, and the rest will be garnered from the scenarios that currently stand. So we'll put things like the amulet of the IAPA from A Victim of the Art will be in there with a piece of art with an expanded description and exactly what powers it possesses. So think of it as a catalog of items, unnatural books, and rituals to unleash on your Delta Green players.
Basically, you just open it and you close your eyes and you go, that one.
Yeah. Anything in there will screw you, basically. But no, I have about 3/4 of the book are text-wise done.
Cool.
And I'm just chunking away. Every couple days I add something new, but it's quite fun.
Very cool. All right, so I know with Shane, do you have something more for Arcant?
I was just going to explain the title for those of you who don't recognize it as a Delta Green neologism for archaeological intelligence, like SIGINT for signals intelligence.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So next up on our list is Black Sites, which we've already opened up for pre-order. Do we know how close we are to hitting that magic number to send it off?
It's well under the halfway mark. I haven't updated the number in a day or two, but it's kind of creeping along. So Black Sites will collect I don't know, 6 or 8 of the newest Delta Green adventures, and put them under one cover, like we did with the Night at the Opera.
The hardback and everything with the
yeah,
PDF
exactly. So it'll be a big hardback that we can get into stores and on people's shelves.
All right. So the next one is The Way It Went Down, Volume 2. Is that that's yours, Dennis? Right?
Yeah, I finished the cover for it. I have 28 out of 31 stories, so I'm almost there. And I don't know if we're going to do a pre-order or whatever, but both that and Black Sites are works that if we get enough pre-orders it's very quick to move it to press. There's not a lot of extra work in something like Black Sites. It's kind of, the art's already done. We just need to kind of get the layout flowing. Same thing with The Way It Went Down, Volume 2. So yeah, soon, next month or so, I should have all the stories.
Very cool. All right. So now I've got a cryptic note on this one that says that our new Delta Green Kickstarter people are going to be very excited about Labyrinth and Wrestle-nomicon out and the remaining stretch goals.
No, that's I wrote that in a weird way.
He definitely wrote that in a weird way.
Yeah. Have you met Shane?
It's a new Delta Green Kickstarter about which people are going to be very excited. And the bullet points under that.
This is an editing thing. It says new Delta Green Kickstarter people are going to be excited about. So it could go either way.
Are we making short?
That's awesome. Right. Well, so I think based on that, what I can tell is that once we get the Labyrinth Kickstarter and the Wrestle-nomicon out to our backers, we are looking at potentially a new Delta Green Kickstarter.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the core goals for the Labyrinth, the core goal for the Labyrinth will be the Labyrinth proper, and Wrestle-nomicon, everything for that will be out within the next few months. And then after that, I don't know, Dennis, do you want to talk about the new Delta Green Kickstarter people that's been causing so much angst?
Angst? I've been working on art for a new Delta Green project. Kind of the next big thing in our iteration of Delta Green. Now that other books we haven't talked about, like Impossible Landscapes, have gone off to edit, and my work becomes much more about art direction and creative direction, which takes some time, but not nearly as much time as grinding through a book. So I've started illustrating kind of the next thing we're planning on doing, and it's a big project. But it's also very exciting. You can check out my Patreon, which is just patreon.com/Detwiller, DETWILLER. I put up a bunch of art there today that's just kind of showing you what it might be. And so far the guesses have been wrong, but fun. So we'll go live further down the road when we have more of these books out. But it's exciting. It's a very big, complex project with a lot of moving parts. But me and Shane are looking forward to it. I think, Shane, is that true?
Yeah, definitely.
There's lots of things being talked about behind the scenes that aren't being shared today. So I guess just stay tuned for additional little juicy bits of things coming out. Next up, we're going to talk about Impossible Landscapes, which I've already been assigned by Dennis to smack Shane upside the head a few times to make sure that he actually gets to that manuscript, right? The draft that you've turned in.
Yeah. So Impossible Landscapes was originally supposed to be a 128-page first campaign book for Delta Green, and now it's more like a 300 some odd page first campaign book for Delta Green. So it's grown monstrously, which is good. I've finished probably about half the art. It'll go quickly otherwise. I'm waiting until Shane sinks his horrible editorial teeth into it to yell at me and change things. If I don't, smack him. If I don't wait, I'll end up illustrating a bunch of stuff that's going to be cut, no doubt. But it's something like 180,000 words which is way off target. It was supposed to be something like 80,000 words.
Oh, what I love is that, you know, your backers will back your Kickstarter expecting the books to be small, and then they're not being asked for extra money. It's like you get the massive tome for the same amount that you kicked in to begin with.
Yeah, and Impossible Landscapes, for those who know about John Tynes' original The Road to Hali and the Hastra mythos in Delta Green Countdown, this book is literally when Tynes says, and then you could make a campaign out of this. That's what this book is. It is a campaign for the King in Yellow, front to back. You literally just need the handler's guide, and you could run this, and it could take up, you know, a full campaign, months and months of gameplay. So quite fun. And
we're looking at that for like the second half of the year at this
point. Something like that. If you keep hitting chain.
Okay.
But use a phone book and only on the torso.
Yes.
Otherwise, you could be prosecuted, and we don't want that.
So I already got it up on both of y'all because we don't get phone books anymore.
Our daughter did get a phone book, and she was completely perplexed by it.
She had no idea what it was.
She's like, "What in the world? Why have they left this on my apartment step?"
This is
what's like somebody tried to put Google in a book. What in the world is this?
Stand on to reach the cabinet above the.
That's exactly right.
So yeah, Impossible Landscapes, I'm wildly excited about. I think it's filled with. Whenever I write something and it upsets me and I have to stop writing it, that's always a really good feeling, and I've had that feeling 7 or 8 dozen times with Impossible Landscapes where I go, I don't like that, and that's a really good, creepy feeling. So whenever I have those, I know I'm on the right track.
Okay, so one that hasn't really come up in a lot of our conversations, Deep State.
Yeah, so Chris Gunning is making champions progress on his end of that. That's basically a collaboration between Chris and me. So Chris is doing sort of the heavy lifting on the March Technologies side of that book, and I'm going to be doing more of the heavy lifting on the Delta Green and associated organizations side of the book. And so Deep State kind of brings together, it picks up where the Handler's Guide, talking about the program, left off in terms of how the Delta Green in both iterations relates to March Technologies, which is this big umbrella company that contains a multitude of other little companies in which the Majestic project from up until the 90s escaped out into the wild. And so it's all these little sources of corruption and technological terror and cover-ups and desperation that Delta Green agents can get into once they start digging into what's really going on behind the scenes of the organization that they volunteer themselves to suffer and die for.
Cool. What about operational history? I don't think I've even heard about this one.
Yeah, Dennis, what do you want to talk about that one?
Operational history. Gil Treviso is going to be kind of taking a look at that, and that's basically just an expanded timeline of P Division, Delta Green, kind of the history of the U.S. government and others with the mythos, but basically starting with the birth of P Division, the raid on Innsmouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of our early goals on that was to, or I don't know if it was an early goal or was what shape the goal took, but was to kind of take the history parts of the Handler's Guide and break some of them down into playable details. So where you have references on a page to a couple of years passing and some weird events in those years, then operational history can kind of go into the Delta Green operations that you can build out of that. So, yeah.
Well, I know a lot of people have asked me about Pisces. What can what's our status, and what can they look forward to with that?
Yeah, we have a first draft of that from the Pisces team. There are a couple of chapters that they want to to keep kind of hammering on before they call them ready for prime time. But Dennis and I are going to start digging into what we have right now and see where to take it, so we can move forward on that. I think it's far enough along that once we kind of wrap our heads around it, and then essentially what we'll be doing is having the Pisces team, Giles Hill and Nick Brownlow and their friends, Adam Crossingham and Graham, they'll kind of transition from the developers to consultants. So we'll sort of flip roles where the Delta Green team is kind of consultants for them as they're developing their material, and then they'll pass it along, and we'll flip it around, and we'll become the active developers in finalizing the whole thing.
Very cool. I know.
So we have the first draft of that, and then we'll start of the next. Dennis and I'll take point on digging away at that, and then it'll be their turn to suffer.
It's rounds and rounds of editing. Yes. All right, so we've got the Labyrinth coming out the first half of the year. Second half of the year, we've got all the goodies that also come along with it, right? The handout kits. So what's a handout kit?
Go ahead.
Do you want me to describe it?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, it's everything you need to run either a particular scenario or a particular group encounter. So things like flyers, maps, photos, anything referenced in the text for, say, the lonely would be contained in a handout kit. So it just makes a handler's job that much easier when they sit at the table and run something with that. If you have to kind of toss a news article, you don't wing it. We provide it, and John wrote it up, and he's provided a bunch of examples for each of the groups. And I think he's got 2 more to go or 3 more to go, but he's been chunking through those pretty steadily.
Very cool. So, very good. All right. God's Teeth, very popular.
Yep.
That's in Caleb's hands, and we Caleb Stokes is writing that for us based on a wildly popular series of actual play recordings that he did with the role-playing public radio people a few years ago. So yeah, we basically have, we'll occasionally email him and kind of start applying the thumb screws to force him to produce more words.
The proper term is terrorize. I think we terrorize him, and occasionally he'll spit things out in an attempt. Much like, a lizard will discard its tail. He'll go, here's 2,000 words, and then run away. We'll get him.
It's part of the contract, though, right? Yes. You sign the contract, and it says right in there, expect terror if you start taking too long.
Wriggling, and eat him whole. Caleb has we've negotiated an end date for his manuscript, and it's in the next 2 months or so. So I'm really excited for it, but at the same time, every Delta Green project is that old Orson Welles wine commercial. We will serve no wine before it's time, and everybody constantly asks me, when is this going to be ready? And the answer is
when it's ready.
When it's perfect.
Yes.
We'll release it. And that involves a lot of grief and angst and yelling at each other and Shane making me feel guilty and me making Shane feel guilty. But in the best, most happy.
But the subject matter of Delta Green is surprisingly dysfunctional.
But so far, I'm quite happy with everything we've put out, and we just want to keep that streak going. So whenever you think, my God, I wish they'd release 3 books a month, or you really don't.
Well, what people don't realize is the people on the screen. That's it. That's us.
Yeah.
There's only so much we can do and so many hours in the day, and So you've got your two main creatives here and the person that handles all the stuff that they don't want to handle. So we're not a big company of 10 or 20 people.
No.
Some freelancers and us.
No.
Let's see. Okay, so for coming out across this year, we've also got some additional scenarios that we owe that are stretch goals for the Labyrinth. Is that right?
And now that the book's out, we're kind of we're chunking through the final adventures and short downloads for the original Delta Green Kickstarter. And my goal is once those are out the door, and that's like 4 things, and those are all going to be out the door in the next few months, then we start, then Dennis and John and I are going to start on the scenarios that we had as stretch goals for the Labyrinth Kickstarter. And those will eventually become a book called Final Passages that'll collect all of those in one volume. And they have their own, they'll eventually have their own handouts kit as well.
Oh, that's nice. That's lots of extra added benefit for the Kickstarter people.
Yep.
I don't think this is a Pelgrane thing that's next on the list. Is that correct? You've got different approvals for more Fall of Delta Green related stuff?
Right. Pelgrane did Fall of Delta Green for Trail of Cthulhu, which has gotten lots and lots and lots of good press and great response from fans, and they're working on a campaign for that was kind of conceived and had the initial setup done by Ken Hite, who wrote Fall of Delta Green, and then he handed off all of the detail work to Gareth Ryder Hanrahan, who's an old friend of ours, to develop it. So that's going to be that's called the Borellus Connection, and so we have that in our hands for approvals that we've had in hand for a long time. So that's another one that I guess probably Simon will get in touch with you, ask you to smack me on the head until I do that, and finish the approvals for that, and then we can send that off back to them for final layout and development.
Yeah. There's too much of that. No, there's no domestic violence. Let me just say that.
Starting to think he's kind of into it.
Just making it be slow on purpose.
Delta Green, when you tick enough boxes for being traumatized by helplessness, you eventually just get used to it. It doesn't bother you as much anymore.
All right, so 2021, we've got Falling Towers, Those Who Come After It, and its handout kit, and Final Passages and its handout kit.
Yeah, Final Passages is the collection of those labyrinth-related scenarios. Those Who Come After is Dennis's campaign regarding the great race of Yith.
Well, actually, no, it's not a campaign.
Not a campaign. Okay, go ahead.
It's Amigo. It's a Machinations of the Amigo style source book about the great race of Yith and the motion. They're human lackeys in the modern age, with several scenarios in the back. So it's if you read any of the old Delta Green chapbooks, The Fate or Machinations of the Amigo or Project Rainbow, it's very much like that. It's a source book on kind of how to use them in your campaign. What does a great race human agent look like? What's their tech like? It's basically just a threat assessment on the great race for modern Delta Green play, with a couple scenarios. And
Falling Towers, that's yours, Shane, right?
Yeah, Falling Towers is me and the ever patient Dan Harms, and that's going to be us writing about the fate, the occult, the big sort of sprawling, deadly cult in New York City in the 90s, and how it fell apart in the early 2000s, and when Delta Green agents had a chance to finally go after it.
We did a lot of research on that, right? We,
yeah.
There's a lot of took a trip through Red Hook and
the teak box from Club Apocalypse just made an appearance in my new Delta Green scenario, From the Dust. It's been chiseled out of the ground, the stand, and stored in a green box in Queens. And it's just sitting there in a green box with the teak box on top. So that was quite nice. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens to Alzise and his minions.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got some other projects that we're doing in 2020. We've got Wrestle-nomicon. We did that really cool Kickstarter last year, and we've been plugging away on it. So Shane, tell us where we're at on that. I know people are a little anxious. I think we have a lot of backers of that Kickstarter that maybe aren't as familiar with us and how they can always rely on us to make sure that our items come out, even if it's a little slower.
That's the downside of reaching new fans is sometimes they're not the old fans, and
That's
they
right.
have to come.
And we have to explain to them that even if we don't hit a deadline, it's coming, and it's probably going to be better than what you thought it was going to be.
Right. So that's the plan. But yeah, so it's mostly it's pretty much done, right? So Simeon is doing a last couple of graphic design things for the printer package that we're sending over to the manufacturer, and we expect to have everything back for that in probably May or June, and we'll have a bonus card deck available for sale soon. I'll look into setting that up for pre-orders on BackerKit, but that'll have a bunch of new cards to add to your decks for players that get into Wrestlenomicon. So it'll be fun. So it's pretty cool.
Okay.
Pretty scoreable.
And Swords and Sorceries, have you released it into the wild, right? The Tomb of Fire?
Yeah. Tomb of Fire is the newest adventure that's out. And then beyond that, we'll kind of see. I've got a bunch of new scenarios, other scenarios already written. We playtesting those on Patreon, and we'll sort of decide on sinking money into those as we see how sales are on the existing series.
And people that are fans of the Swords and Sorcery series can help that along by doing things like leaving reviews, right, and giving ratings to the stuff, sharing it around.
If you've played it, then absolutely, yeah.
Okay, cool. King in Yellow's rocking along. I can tell you that last time I checked, we have less than 300, like less than 280 or so copies of the King in Yellow left. So when they are gone, they are gone.
Yeah, I'm investigating options for doing a standard edition, and I'm looking into distribution options because it's a really tricky thing because we've sort of developed our niche in the hobby industry over a lot of years through a lot of trial and error, and I want to minimize the error going forward. So reaching out to fiction markets is kind of a new, weirdly kind of a new addition for us as publishers.
But that's going to be great for the people that live outside of the U.S. that are finding the shipping costs for buying it straight from us. The deluxe edition. This is going to be a way for them to be able to get it much cheaper, Yeah. So we'll see. I'm kind of slowly investigating what we can do with that. Okay. And let's see. It says we're talking to Ken about maybe doing deluxe annotations of other classic authors. Who do you have in mind?
Yeah, I don't know. Do we want to say anything in detail about that, Dennis? Because that's not really very far along.
Yeah, Ken sent over some ideas. But nothing worth mentioning yet.
Okay, so just lots of behind-the-scenes discussions.
He's interested, and we're interested, and it was obviously a big hit.
Yeah, we're really happy with the way the King in Yellow came out. So
it's such a beautiful book.
Yeah.
Okay. Unspeakable Oath on Patreon, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I've got Brett Kramer kind of on hold, on indefinite hold for doing the legwork on editing that when we relaunch it. And I've been kind of going back and forth with Chaosium to nail down licensing terms and everything. So it's in the wings, but it's one of the projects that, because there's so many other things that people are threatening physical abuse against me for, it kind of, it kind of stays on hold, I guess, until Brett starts trying to send leg breakers over, and then they can compete.
Okay. Now we've got 2020 is going to be the first year in a while where we're doing like multiple different conventions. So, we'll be back at Gen Con, of course, at the end of July and early August, but we've added in this year going to Origins. So Shane and I and our oldest son, John, will be at Origins with a booth, and we're going to be working with the Rogue Cthulhu people to make sure that lots of good games are available for people to be able to play. And we may be adding PAX Unplugged possibly in November, so that would be great.
Yeah. I've been collecting data from friends who attended PAX Unplugged and exhibited there to sort of see what the smart play is, because it's a lot of it gets a lot of business, but the methods by which we generally get involved at conventions that we show at, having lots of gamers running our games and sending their players to our booth, don't sound like they really apply at PAX Unplugged, because they don't have organized events in the same way. So I'm kind of checking into that to see see what's going to be a smart way to spend money.
And of course, we're going to be ramping up our signups for people that want to run games for us at Gen Con.
That's launching like
imminently.
Sunday or Monday, I think, is when the early submissions begin. So we're going to have to announce that over the weekend.
Okay. Cool. We're going to wrap this up just by quickly talking about the 2 Patreons that are available. Mm-hmm. So we've got, we'll start with you, Dennis. Tell us a little bit about your Patreon and what people need to know.
Yeah, it's solely for Delta Green. So everything on it's Delta Green oriented. It's $1 to gain access to everything, and I've been doing it for years. So $1, you enter, you get dozens of PDFs, a bunch of new operations, a bunch of monsters, a bunch of rituals, a bunch of stories, and every little bit counts. So $1 makes a big difference in the day-to-day production of Delta Green material. And you also gain access to PDFs before they go out, manuscripts before they're finalized. It's just a great place to kind of keep your finger on the pulse of Delta Green. And the people who are there are all really cool. Everybody just chats, and there's a lot of kind of back and forth conversations about the property and what people would like to see and such like that. So it's quite fun. It's patreon.com/Detwiller, DETWILLER, and you can just search for Delta Green and it'll pop up on Patreon. But I love it. It's so much better than just a normal social network. It feels like the people who want to be there really, really want to be there. And the feedback, even when it's, I wish you were doing X or I wish you were doing Y, some of those ideas are just great. And that's such a rare thing. I'm on Twitter and people are like, you should do like a Harry Potter or Delta Green, but on Patreon, people all seem to kind of get it and their ideas are awesome. And I even acted on several ideas there that were offered to me by people who are just excited by the Delta Green property, which is awesome. So I love that kind of stuff.
Cool. And Shane, tell us about the Arc Dream Patreon.
So the other one it just launched a few months ago, like 3 months ago, I think, something like that. That's at patreon.com/Shane Ivey. And but yeah, so I mean, I do some stuff for Delta Green there, and then I've done a couple of godlike adventures, and it's sort of a hodgepodge because I have really wide-ranging, weird interests in gaming and game writing and development. So it's a place where I kind of throw in lots of different things. So but yeah, so you can find it there. I've done. I'm doing play testing for Jack Frost, for instance, went up there. Play testing for Hourglass went up there. A couple of godlike adventures, I think I mentioned. I did a Star Wars role-playing game recently that just sort of came together, and lots of 5th edition stuff that ties into the Swords and Sorceries line. Just little 1 or 2 pages of of interesting stuff that didn't really fit anywhere else, that's a great place to put it, and it's cheap. $1 a month will get you everything.
And of course, all of our Art Dream Presents videos and podcasts start off there for a week of early access before going live for everyone else. Okay, well, great. This has been a lot of fun, and we're trying to keep it short and sweet today. Is there anything else you guys want to end with?
Just thanks to the fans. You guys are awesome, and you continue to be awesome. And we just want to make Delta Green products as good as we can possibly make them. So everything you're enduring is noted. We try to get the work out as quickly as we can, but just like the original Delta Green, it always takes longer than we thought, and there's always so much care that goes into every page. There's nothing we put out that we go, we'll just let that one fly. It just never happens. Or Rachel smacks us.
It's going to be my new move. It's going to be my new move now.
It's a signature. But yeah, thank you very much for your support. We love making it, even when it's super hard, which it often is. And Shane wants to kill me, but
which he
luckily
often does.
he lives thousands of miles away and has
not for
hope.
long.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, same. Thank you so much, everybody.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. We're going to have show notes, all the links that you need that we discussed. Just hit us up on social media if you have any other questions. That's it. Thanks for joining in.
Cool.
See ya.
This episode of Art Dream Presents was recorded via Skype. Special thanks to Shane Ivey and Dennis Detwiller. Links to their Patreons and to other things discussed can be found in this episode's show notes.
If you enjoyed this episode of Art Dream Presents, be sure to subscribe and give us a rating on iTunes or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. This episode's music is Narla Thotep by Darkest of the Hillside Thickets, courtesy Divine Industries. Copyright 2019. Visit www.thickets.net.